Check, 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 check. 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 Let me know if you can hear me. Oh. I might rotate. I don't want the sun on my face, eh? Give me 1 sec. Good to see all of you, by the way. Oh. Can hear you. Shout out to all of you. Yeah, that's a bit better. I like that more. Good to see all of you. There's a lot of new people in here. It's great to see. Shout out to everybody in London. Stringer man. Man, you're all over the place these days. Hey, one day you're in the Swiss Alps, the next day you're in Chinatown and Kuala Lumpur. It's good to see, man. I hope you're doing well. This is the fun part of my Indie Pack Q&A. Obviously, I'll probably talk about it more in the future, but as for leaving the live streams up, this is my last part. I know I've reiterated a lot of the points, but I mean, people ask the same questions, I mean, so you just re-answer them. So shout out to all of you, I appreciate it. Adelaide in the house, good to see, man. I love Adelaide. It's my hometown, where I grew up. Flytrap, pleasure to see you, brother. It's a windy Saturday here. They got a weather warning, you know. It's like 120-kilometer winds. Have I got a sponsor now? No. Nah, man. No. You know, a lot of people actually ask me that, man. A lot of people actually ask me that. Do I have a sponsor now? And I wouldn't see why someone would sponsor me after one ride, race, whatever you want to call it. But let's go for a ride soon. That's the key point. You know, I was going to go for a ride today down Beach Road, but then when I heard it was that windy, I was like, no, I'm not, no, man. What light did you have? Any dynamo up at the front? I had an exposure. I had an exposure front light. I forgot the name of it. It's an exposure light. You know those exposure lights? They're hell common for people who do this kind of shit. They just got a great battery life. You know, probably it's. I'm trying to think of what lumens it is at max, but like it's got so many different programs. This exposure light, like I think I had mine on program 5 or something. It's got like on the lowest setting, it's got like a 28-hour or 30-hour battery life on that lowest setting, and then you have a medium setting, it's like 12 hours, and then you have a higher setting, it's like 3 hours. So I just had that. It probably took 5 hours or 6 hours to fully charge, but it's a great light. And then I had 2 of those. Are they Nog? Are they called Nog? Those two of those Nog lights are the Nog blinders on the back. The ones that like they're just like long and thin, with like four little lights on them. I had that. I had 2 of those, and they have an insane battery life. I think it's like a 50-hour battery life or a 45-hour battery life on the Eco Flash. So I just run that shit on the Eco Flash, and I had 2 of them, and they're so lightweight and they take up such little room. I mean, you just need to do the math on that. I mean, if it's 12 hours of darkness when you're running that thing, you're getting like 3 or 4 days out of one light, you know. So I'm only having to charge. I'm rotating the lights once and then charging one up again. So it was great. Yo, congrats on the amazing effort. How much did you think weight training helped with the Indie Pack? That's a great question. I don't know if I've answered that yet. I think it helped tremendously. I mean, I think just in terms of just overall strength of my legs to be able to handle, you know, because for me, physically, like I probably wasn't in the greatest shape to be able to do that race. I mean, in terms of Like if I was going to go do a one-day 24-hour ride or a one-day 200k ride or even like a one-day 700k ride or something like, not one day, I mean one effort, I was in good shape for that. But up until the race, I had never really done anything more than 3 days of back-to-back riding. And the last time I did 3 days of back-to-back riding was like 2 years, like a year. It's on my channel. It's when I did that 3-day ride to Adelaide with Joey. So the multi-day ride thing I wasn't in condition for. I was in condition for, 3 or 4 long rides a week, but spaced out. Like I would do a 200k ride and then I'd rest one day and then go out again. So I think what really allowed me to keep going was just the fact that I had years of weight training in my legs. And just in terms of my tendon strength and ligament strength, all that kind of shit was pretty strong. And it was able to handle it. I don't think my legs would have been able to handle it if I didn't have the weight training in the physical shape that I was in terms of that ability to reproduce the effort every day. It was really the weight training that carried me through. Because my legs were really just absolutely destroyed. Like I'm sure if I didn't have the weight training, I would have tore something. I would have tore a hamstring. I would have tore my kneecaps off. Something would have gone completely wrong. Because I borderline felt like that was going to happen the whole time. But the weight training really, the weight training is an amazing tool. I mean, if I was a cyclist and I hadn't gotten into weight training yet, I would definitely get into it. At least leg training, core training, lower back training, upper back training. It's not like you were trying to want to get like to the size of Jay Cutler, but I think it would alleviate a lot of these problems you see on long bike rides, like, that Sherman's neck a lot of people get, and lower back pain due to weak core, or just having a weak lower back in general, and you know what I mean? You wouldn't get as much knee pain and Achilles pain and all these kind of pains, they would be delayed at least. You probably still get them, but they wouldn't set on you so early in some sort of event. So I highly recommend it. At least for me with my weight training, I've always been, especially in terms of lower body, I've always been better at reproducing. What I'm trying to say is I've always been better at endurance type work, even if it's with weights, than just being outright straight powerful or strong. Do you know what I mean? So I was kind of suited to it. Would you consider crowdfunding towards supporting your future events, Trans-Siberia, etc.? I'm not really sure, you know what I mean? Like, I would rather just somehow make the money without crowdfunding. Like, I'd rather sell you a t-shirt before I crowdfunded, even if you didn't wear the t-shirt. I mean, that's a form of crowdfunding in itself, in my eyes, Chris, pleasure to see you, brother. Not much, man. Got back to Melbourne, just relaxing. How much did I spend on food? It's really dictated by the area that you're in. Like in the most rural areas, you spend a heinous amount of food, and it's heaps. I mean, like a Gatorade in the middle of nowhere out in Western Australia is like $7 a bottle. Like there's places where a Gatorade or a Powerade was $7 a bottle, and liquid calories are just expensive, But then as you get closer to the city, you're literally reducing your price of your meals by like 40%. Like you go from spending, I had a few meals, there was a joint in Nullarbor, I spent $85, man. Just to get me just to eat and get me 200 Ks was like $90. So yeah, I guess you have to be prepared for that because the food's a big factor. If you can't eat, then you're not going to be able to really perform. I mean, if everything else is in check, like if you're committed and dedicated to cycling that distance, then the food's huge. Do you know what I mean? You need that food to be able to fuel that distance. And it's not something you'd want to worry about. You wouldn't want to be sitting there worried about like, no, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. You would just want to be able to get what you want to get and then fuck off. Reckon back and core strength paid off too. 100% it paid off. I didn't get any lower back pain. I got a bit of neck pain, but it wasn't like neck pain I thought that was going to debilitate me. It was just a bit of a sore neck, and I had to stretch it a little bit, but it was nothing too crazy. So, 100% it pays off. If anything, if I was going to do it again, I would even focus more on my lower back, and I'd focus more on my core, and just this whole T-spine region. Well, I'm not too sure. I mean, about what ultra racers do, because I'm not really an ultra racer, and I don't hang out with ultra racers. And there's dudes who've been doing this shit for years, so they're more experienced at it. But I mean, I just think there's more to the pie than just going out and cycling a long distance. Obviously, I'm talking even in just in physical sense. I'm not talking about there's more to it than just riding a bike in terms of being mental aspects and spiritual aspects. I'm talking like just physically, obviously, there's more to it than just being able to cycle for a long period of time. In terms of your training, I mean, in your training regime, there has to be a bit of diversity there, you know? Like I said, it's not like you want to be Jay Cutler, but you want to have those strong supporting muscles to be able to allow you to be able to do the riding you want to do. And this is a long fucking time. It's not like one day. Like, you know what I mean? Once your neck hurts and your lower back hurts and your abs are just weak and you're like, you know, just a mate, you know, you're going to have to deal with that for a long period of time and it can really limit your abilities. So I would definitely think about it. Shouts to you in Ireland, brother. Hopefully one day I get out there. Would it have been too much trouble to bring a carb powder and mix your own? 100% it would have been too much trouble. You know, well, I don't allocate room for carb powder. Do you know what I mean? And how much carb powder are you going to bring for the whole race? I mean, you're going to need a lot of carb powder, man. A lot of carb powder. And the thing is, man, especially, I think carbs are a bit obviously they're not overhyped, but they are overhyped. Like, that doesn't really make sense. In this, but, you know, it's impractical to think that on such a long event, your body's just burning straight carbs. Do you know what I mean? You're burning you're burning all sorts of fuel, man. Sure, you're burning protein, fat, and carbs. Straight biceps for some of the effort, you know? So, it's just overall calories. It's just overall calorie intake. Obviously, you need to, you know, have enough glycogen. But just overall calories, you know? So, sitting there, if you're trying to get 1,000 grams of carbs, like, that's only 4,000 calories, man. You need way more than that. I mean, if you're trying to push the pace, I mean, let's say you're trying to consume anywhere between 15 and 20,000 calories. I mean, if you're just trying to do that on straight carbohydrates, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, divide 15,000 by 4. I don't even know what that is, but it's heinous. It's almost 4,000 grams of carbs a day. I'm sure your stomach would not enjoy that. So for me, it was a combination of, you know, the sugary drinks and the nuts and the peanuts. And, you know, there was a few days I was eating kilos of peanuts and just heinous. It's hell windy in Melbourne, bro. Where's the bike now? The Curve Museum. The bike's inside, bro. What's up, mate? Shouts to you, Aaron. Good to see you. Did you listen to lots of music? And what did you listen to? And what did you listen to it? P.S. If you inspired me to complete a 100-mile bike ride. I'm glad, bro. I'm glad, eh? You know, you may as well try it, see if you enjoy it. Even if you never do it again, it's good to try. I listen to music just for me, it was key that I wasn't dependent on music, because I just know through experience that music only does so much. And, you know, music can definitely enhance some moments and help you, but it can also be a band-aid. And for something for so long, you can't really rely on anything to drive you other than yourself. Like, no one's going to be able to hold your hand. That goes for riding with people. That goes for music. That goes for every single thing on a personal level that you're using to try and improve, like to try and hold your hand and distract you instead of just accepting what's happening. So I'm very wary of that. So for me, like, if it gets challenging, the first thing I do is I don't listen to music. If the sun's rising, the sun's setting, and I'm going through a challenging moment, I don't listen to music. If something beautiful is happening, I don't listen to music. If birds are fucking flying in front of me and the sun's setting and like just the most crazy shit's going down, I want to be able to fully absorb that without having some other dude's voice in my head. You know, it's enough having your own voice in your own head and trying to deal with that and trying to tame the piece of your mind that's really hard to tame. So music's just a tool. Sometimes it's good, sometimes you want to use the tool, sometimes you don't want to use the tool. There's a right moment to use it, and ultimately only you can decide when it's useful, or when you're using it for the wrong reasons or the right reasons. But definitely I would get, you know, a lot of people struggle without music, and it's something you have to get used to, you know, especially when we're talking about prolonged periods of time out there by yourself. Like, I mean, there's no amount of music on the planet. There's not enough space on your iPod. There's not enough space on your phone to keep you distracted. I'm telling you, there's not. You go through it in one day, then you'd be like, fuck, You'll be trying to find some dude's computer to download songs and then upload it onto iTunes, and it's just another thing you have to worry about. You want to calibrate to the most raw format, as in all you need to do to go is your bike and yourself, nothing else. Any advice on how to weight train for ultra endurance sports without putting on any muscle weight? It's just low protein intake and high. I mean, it's a great question. You know, I'm not too sure. I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned if you did put on any muscle, man. I mean, it's ultra endurance. I mean, it depends on the distance. You know, if it's a multi-week event, a kilo of extra muscle is not going to really fuck you up, I don't think. I don't think it's... if we're talking about the muscles in the places we want... If we're talking about actual skeletal muscle being added to the places we want to add them, I think in an event it would help you. Like if we added muscle to your hamstring, your quads, your calf, you know, oftentimes the bigger muscles are strong. It's a stronger muscle, so that strength can be translated into power, especially with your training on the bike. So I wouldn't be worried if I was adding muscle to my back. I'm adding a bit of muscle to my arms, to my glutes, all these muscles that are going to help you ride, you know. So, but the biggest thing is just your calorie intake with training. Like if you're worried about putting on a significant amount of muscle, it would just come down to controlling your calories. But then it's a double-edged sword, because if you don't eat enough, it's hard to make progress. So it's just a balance you're going to have to work out. Well, you're not going to make progress at any measurable rate. You kind of be wasting your energy. So my answer to that would be, I wouldn't be afraid to put on muscles in the areas I wanted to. Like obviously having big pecs probably won't hurt your bike. It's not really necessary, you know, or conducive to riding a bike fast. But like I said, the back, the lower back, the abdomen, the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, the arms. I mean, you know, the arms can help, man. It took me 14 days to finish, so 2 weeks. Can you recommend a good source of information when learning about nutrition? I mean, can't even recommend a good, or I can. I mean, if you just type in Eric Helms nutrition, you're going to get a lot of great material. You know, more so powerlifting, bodybuilding related, but still you can just apply it. You can apply it to, those principles are kind of fundamental for all sports. You might have to tailor the percentages if you're an endurance athlete, but still, for someone, if someone didn't really know much about nutrition, I would just type in Eric Helms nutrition. Shouts you, Cam. Good to see you, brother. Did you bring any piece of kit that you didn't end up using and realize it wasn't necessary, or was everything else? No, I didn't really have anything that wasn't necessary. I mean, everything I brought was necessary. Some stuff I didn't use. Like I brought a couple extra tubes I didn't use, but it's hard to know whether or not they're going to be necessary or not, you know. No, but everything I brought was necessary. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously there were some tools I didn't have to use, like a chain breaker and stuff, but that's kind of a necessity, in my eyes at least. And I had done a lot of training with all my gear anyway, so it wasn't really a guessing game for me whether or not I should have this or that, you know. But that's something you can tailor in your training that you should really be exploring, is, you know, training with your kit. I mean, that's just specificity. You have to be applying that in your training. So I was just confident with my gear, you know, and the gear really inspired my confidence anyway, because I just knew that's what I would most likely need to do the job. I would never do the route on a fixed geared bike, man. Never, ever, 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 ever. You know, I got a lot of respect for the dudes who did it on a fixed geared bike, but I couldn't do it, man. Well, I could do it. I mean, I'm not stupid enough to say I couldn't do it, but I wouldn't want to do it. Did I have any prior knowledge on practice or how to taper for the race? You know, great question, by the way. Seth, you know, all my knowledge on tapering came from lifting weights, you know, in terms of, you know, tapering with lifting weights to, you know, have your best performance. But I really struggled in terms of how I was trying to understand how to taper for this in my mind. And it was a struggle for me. At one point I had to just put the information away and just kind of go, well, this is completely new. I have to just kind of just go by how I feel and and what I think will work, because there's not that much literature. You know, you can find literature on how to taper for a 100-mile run. You can find literature on how to taper for a marathon, Ironman, but these are still one-day, 24-hour events. These aren't multi-day events. So, you know, for me, it was like I wasn't worried if I tapered incorrectly. I just wanted to make sure that what I was doing, I completely believed in, because I know that that matters more than having the perfect taper and not really believing in it. You know, so I just wanted to be 100% fully, just have that level of confidence and belief in what I was doing, even if it was not the best taper. You know, so I would rather be over recovered and extremely fresh than in like this peak shape and kind of feel like not confident, you know. So that formed the basis for my taper. Just being like, I don't care if I'm over fresh, I don't care if I'm over recovered. You know, I got fucking a few days to ride into it anyway. And I knew that I was in better shape even if I was over recovered than when I started, so I wasn't really worried. So, you know, probably 2 weeks out, I had a few big weeks of training, and I wasn't feeling that tired. And my performance was pretty good, man. My performance was pretty good in those last couple of weeks of training. I felt tired, but I still had the ability to perform in my training, which was cool. But then, you know, I kind of had this idealistic view of it, like that I was just going to go out and do like, cut this percentage out and go do this many rides. But as soon as I kind of told myself I was tapering and I was recovering, it's kind of like what happened to me post-race. I felt like all the fatigue was just unloaded on me. And I felt way more tired, way more hungry. So I kind of just allowed myself to relax, man. I only did like 2 weeks out, I only did probably like 3 rides. So only like 30 or 40 kilometers max. And then the week of, you know, I really did minimal riding. You know, I was in Perth, and just even little rides would make me tired, man. Like, we would ride to the supermarket, and I'd be like, man, I can't be fucked riding in the supermarket. It's like 5Ks. You know what I mean? So, I really did minimal. But I felt, when I came to the race day, I felt recovered. I felt fresh. I wasn't too worried if I wasn't going to be in this like peak shape, but I at least mentally I felt fresh, and I had a desire to go, and that's the biggest thing. I felt like a bit like a caged animal, waiting to hear the sound of the fucking gun go off so I could finally just execute on what I had been planning to do for so long. When you thought to yourself, why the fuck am I doing this? What was the answer, and how did you tame that thought? It's a great question, man. And it's, to be honest with you, I was very lucky. I wouldn't say lucky. It's definitely not luck, but I was fortunate enough in this endeavor that I never really questioned why I was there. You know, I was really firm on why I was doing it before. You know, so I didn't really have to deal with why am I here. Do you know what I mean? It was, or this, why the fuck am I doing? I didn't have to deal with that. You know what I mean? Because the training was possibly harder than the race itself, or as hard in some aspects. So I already had dealt with all those, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Kind of thing before. So when I got there, it wasn't something I had to revisit. Would you suggest starting days early in the morning and finish early to mid-afternoon before closing times in all towns? I mean, yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do for that, because, I mean, if you're going to keep riding it and you're resting only minimally, there's going to be overlap where you're riding at different... Like, for me, at least at the start, my schedule was kind of the same. But then, as the sleep got pushed back at different times, then I'd be going through towns at different times and opening hours. But I mean, it's a good idea to start really early, at least so you make the majority of the towns in your day before they shut. It just depends on the course and the route and opening hours and stuff like that. Oh, bro, do you know where Lygon Street is? Yeah, it's near the city, man. Indie Pack, the only enduro you will do, or no, you know, if I'm going to be honest with you, dude, If I'm going to be honest with you, that's a great question if I'd do it again. You know, 100% would do it again. Would I do the Indy Pack again? I'm not sure. I mean, it's a great opportunity. I definitely felt like I had to work really hard to achieve that performance I had. It wasn't just something I stumbled upon. I had to work very hard for it, and I'm proud of that. But I also did feel like, you know, I've worked that hard for other things before that didn't really work out that well, or I felt like that, like in terms of just genetically or physically, I wasn't predisposed to being that good. But when I was out there on the bike, I felt like, fuck, I'm actually okay at this. Obviously, I'd put in a lot of hard work, but I felt like this is something that maybe, in terms of that genetic aspect, going for a long period of time, I might be suited to. So I think it'd be foolish of me not to seize that opportunity, or at least try and pursue it a little bit. So in my mind, you know, I would like to take it to the next level a little bit, but I'm weary of the commitment it takes to take it to the next level. I'm conscious that to improve, it's a huge commitment. And once you make that commitment, there's no turning back. I mean, for a certain period of time at least. So I would still think about it if I was going to do another one, because as soon as I pinpointed that date, it's like you have to go all in. There's no other option. But most likely I will. I will. I heard a rumor on the Tumblr that you were covertly sponsored by Nullarbor Roadhouse potato cakes. Legit. You know, the potato cakes were a great source of fuel for me, man. I ate a lot of them. Did I meet any interesting characters along the way? Yeah, I met heaps, man. It's hard to recall every single person that I met along the way, but I met so many cool people, man. Like, you know, people that I thought, at least for me, like I would never meet in my life, you know. So it was cool, man. And sometimes, you know, these people are saviors. They come out at these like perfect times where like you could use someone to talk to, or they're just cool characters, like, you know, like. So it was great meeting all the people. I mean, I guess that's a part of the ride that's the most enjoyable, is sharing that experience with other people. And it's great, man. How much water did I carry at one time? I mean, probably the most I carried was along the Nullarbor, like through the night, I would say. It was actually not that much, man, because the majority of that shit I did through the night, and it wasn't that high. It was cool, you know. You don't have to drink that much water at night. You know, I need to remind myself to drink water, man, because I've done training rides that have gone for like 9-10 hours and drunk not even a litre of water, not even had to get off the bike to take a piss. You know, so that's kind of an issue for me. So I've got to remind myself, oh, yo, drink the water. But it wasn't that much, man. Like, maybe there was one section where I had 1 litre, 2 litre, 3 litres with me. 3 litres with me. And that's about it. I mean, the weather wasn't that bad. I mean, if it was 40 degrees, it'd be a different story. How did you scale up your cycling training to be able to ride a 300k day? You know, my first 300k ride, I probably didn't really train. You know, I was just doing recreational rides, and then we just pushed it. I probably just pushed it one day and just did a 300k ride. But, you know, obviously, it's one of those things, man, that you can always go further than you think. And I forgot what you said you did. I think you said you did 100 and... Was it 100? You can do 100. I think you did a 150k ride. Was it 100 miles or 100 miles or something? You know, you could probably easily do a 300k day ride, man, if you dedicated the whole day to it. I mean, I don't know what speed you're going to be able to do the whole time, but you could probably do that and be in decent shape and not be dying by the end of it. Obviously, it'd be a challenge. But, you know, obviously it's just increasing the distance just over time, man. It's just increasing that distance over time. It can look like you can just do a ride where you just increase the distance every week, or you can just do overall more volume every week, total kilometers per week, and just have more condition in your legs. But I would say right now, bro, you could do it. I mean, you'd have to tell me how that 150k ride felt. You seem to be riding to a plan. How much was based on a plan and how much was based on feel when you were out there? You know, I wasn't, you know, I had a plan. I had a tentative plan. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be able to stick to it. I kind of did stick to it. You know, the first day I didn't stick to it. You know, because I was just like, nah. I was like, I'm not getting into some pissing match with other dudes doing this race type shit. I just want to stick to my own fucking plan. And I want to really pace it as well as I can. But, you know, it was almost like I gained a little bit of fitness as it went. And I kind of rode into my plan anyway. But, you know, it was pretty on the money. My plan was on the money. There was a few days I was going to go over my plan at the end. Like, when I got through Melbourne, there was a few days where I was like, I was only doing like mid to high 300s because there was a lot of climbing. And I was really on schedule anyway. And my plan, there was a few days where my plan would say only do 370 kilometers. And I was like talking to my girlfriend. I was like, should I do more? Should I do less? But then I was like, fuck it. Like, I was like, I'm just going to stick to my plan. And I just stuck to my plan. And it worked out well, you know? Obviously, there were some days where the weather kind of shifted the amount and shifted the duration of time. Like, where like there was a few days where I had to go over 24 hours to make that plan, especially at the start because there was a brutal headwind. But that's not a concern for me. You know, I've physically I know that I can go over 24 hours. So, you know, I know that. So even in this brutal headwind, having to do 24 hours of total cycling time, it's not that a big of a deal, you know. It might take 5 or 6 hours more than what it would if it was just still or you had a tailwind. But it's not a big deal, you know, so you're going to have to do it anyway. So I didn't really change my plan. The only thing that changed in my mind was like, all right, this is going to take a bit longer than it would. You thought it would. Which kind of pushes everything back. Like, obviously, it's going to take you 5 hours. That means by the time you get there and you have a sleep and you wake up and you have a shower, you eat, you're going to be 5 hours more delayed. But that's nothing you can do about it. That's just the weather. You can't control that, you know. What's the story behind the beads, necklace, and necklace beads? Some kind of inspiration? Yeah, they're kind of. It's not. You know, they're kind of just an inspiration for me. More so, it's like a daily reminder. You know, I feel a sense of duty when I put them on. You know what I mean? Just to be a better human being. Yeah, man. I mean, the necklaces are different. I mean, one of the necklaces has a stone on it. One of the necklaces has a stone on it, and one of the necklaces has a Quran my grandma ripped for me. It's just small, and it's attached. You know, so they mean a lot to me. And the same thing with the bracelets, same thing with the rings. You know, you can meditate with the rings. You can meditate with the beads. You can pray with the beads. And they serve as tools for me to pray. They serve for tools for me to meditate. They serve for tools. And just an overall daily reminder just to be a fucking better dude, you know, to be a better human, you know. I'm not going to put these beads and walk around and carry myself in a certain way that I'm not proud about, you know. Do you ever wake up in a negative mood mindset? I'm struggling with productivity and motivation in days. Any advice on your solution to training? You know, obviously, man, every day you wake up and it's different. You know, you could have had a terrible sleep. You could have had, something could have happened the night before. You could wake up, your mind could be thinking of all sorts of stuff. Your mind could be saying, go back to bed. You could feel like shit, you know. But it's, what I'm trying to say to you is it's really irrelevant, man. You know, executing on what you know you need to do, it's free. It should be free of emotion. You know, sometimes you know what you need to do. Your mind's telling you that to do something else, and you just have to be that person to sit there and say to yourself, well, you know, there's no room for emotion now. If you know what you need to do, there's no room for emotion. You don't have to feel like you want to be Jay Cutler. You don't have to feel like you want to be Jax. You don't have to feel, that's all irrelevant. You push that to the side and you just say, I'm just going to do it. And that's when you have to become a machine, man. You have to become a machine. It becomes machinistic at that point. You're like just a robot, inputs and outputs. I need to go to the gym. Even if I feel like not going to the gym, you just go. Motivation's it's a fleeting emotion. You know, it comes and goes. It's chemical. It's like a spike in dopamine. It's like, I just watched Jay Cutler and I feel like going and training, you know. But then 2 months down the road, that completely leaves you and you're just thinking, how do I go train now? So you really have to find a deeper, if you're struggling day in, day out, it shouldn't be like that. Obviously, there's going to be days where you don't want to go train. There's going to be days where you don't want to go do that. And that's when you're going to have to become a machine and just execute, right? But if you're noticing that for a prolonged period of time, that your desire to go do the things that you need to do isn't there, then you really have to revisit why you're doing them. I mean, sometimes, you know, what you're doing, you need to let go of it and do something else, okay? But a lot of the times, for most people, man, they really never find something they want to do long term. You know, 1 month they're doing this, 1 month they're doing that, 1 month doing that, and it's not so much what they're doing, it's the reasons why they're doing it. You know, so you just have to revisit why you're doing it, and sometimes all it is just it's starting to rain, man. All it is just a conversation with yourself that you have to talk to yourself about and just think, why am I actually doing this? Once that why becomes strong, and largely for most people, when it goes from being something, the why sits outside of them to sitting within them, then if it sits within you, then you always have it. It's always there. You don't have to search for it. Do you see yourself as a leader encouraging others to do epic rides? You know, I don't see myself as anything. I don't see myself as a leader. I don't see it's not something I even think about. You know, I'm grateful for the opportunity that people would listen to me after doing a bike ride like that. And, you know, I don't see myself as anything really, man. Consistency is one of the hardest things to get right in life. Yeah, consistency is a skill, man. Obviously, you have to understand why you're doing something, and then you just build on it. Like, once you've done years and years of consistency, it's so easy to execute on that, you know? You become like the executioner. So, I mean, you just have to start. You just have to start. That's all it is. Just starting, and then just execute it. And then obviously you have to look at your life and think about, like, you know, sometimes you're trying to execute on something so big, but then if you just look at your daily activities and your daily routine, you can't even execute on the small shit. Like, you can't even do the smallest shit. Like, you can't even fucking, you know, like, do your bed correctly, but you're trying to deadlift 400 pounds. It's like, dude, you can't even execute on doing the bed when you know it's the right thing to do. How are you gonna fucking find the consistency to go every day to the gym? You know, so there's so many aspects you can just do every single day with a higher level of focus and just executing, that they all carry into each other, you know. Do I incorporate flexibility in yoga? No, I don't. I probably should. You know, don't listen to me with anything to do with flexibility in yoga, because I'm not the right person to ask. But, you know, at least for me with training, it's just about full range of motion. You know, if you train with full range of motion, and then your muscles won't get tight and locked up in areas, you know, so. But obviously, you should be incorporating flexibility. What is my main goal in life? I mean, that's an extremely tough question to answer. And I can't answer it, because I don't know. You know, in short, my goal in life is just to experience life itself. And beyond that, I'm not sure. You know, these goals, it's always changing, man. If we're talking about what experience, if my goal in life is just to experience life itself, I mean, that manifests itself in all sorts of shit. That can manifest itself in a bike ride across the country. That can manifest itself in a video. That can manifest itself in the pursuit of anything, you know? So, I mean, it's a big question that I don't really have the words for. Shouts to you, Sammy Viagra, man. Thank you, I appreciate it. Shouts from Brunswick. Thank you, Sarah. Good to see you. I do need to do some yoga. But yeah, you need... yoga would be another commitment, man, to the schedule. You know, I'd love to. But if I really would love to, I would do it. Would you consider creating your own enduro or shorter road race, the beaten track, mountain bikes with less cams? No, not really. I don't really have any ambitions to do that. Do you think everyone's main goal in life is to do things that simply make them happy? Well, you know, like, I would just assume, like, I'm not going to, first off, I'm not going to claim to be someone who knows the fucking question to life itself. I mean, people spend their whole life trying to work that out. Even if they don't know, they're trying to work that out. But, you know, I would assume that, you know, your life's not meant to be a large bit of suffering. I mean, you're meant to enjoy it, man. You know what I mean? And it's meant to be a full, vibrant, loving, peaceful, content experience. You know, you shouldn't always be here feeling not good enough, or feeling non-content, feeling like there's always more to be striving for that you haven't achieved that's going to make you feel a certain way you're trying to make yourself feel. Because it's just foolish. So yeah, man. I wouldn't even use happiness. I mean, if happiness means being at peace and feeling content with your life, then I would say happiness, you know. But that's all you can wish for someone. that they're having an enjoyable time, that they're having an enjoyable experience, you know? Because I know what it feels like not to be enjoying the experience, and it's the worst feeling, man. And everyone knows that feeling of like what it feels like to not be where you thought you would be, or to feel like you're not where you should be, or you want to be further than where you are. And you're ultimately never really experiencing where you're at and enjoying it. And that's terrible, because it's almost like giving up the blessing that you're in. And that's no good, you know? Shout out to you, Patrick A. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for stopping by. The hard part is finding what makes you happy. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it should take you your whole life to work out what makes you happy. I think, you know, at least I think about myself. I just think about it's this most simple shit that makes me feel peaceful and content. You know what I mean? Like, you know, even on the terms of like the level of what actions make me feel like a level of peace and content. It's so small. Like I enjoy, you know, so many little things, man. Like I enjoy learning. I mean, maybe that's why I have a brain. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy this process of accumulating knowledge and then putting it into practice. So I enjoy being a student. You know, I also enjoy giving. These are things we all have the capability to do in our day-to-day lives that make you feel so full, you know what I mean? So I don't think that's hard to find. I mean, that's with you the whole time. Your ability to absorb and utilize information to be a student, you're in control of that. Your ability to smile at someone when they walk past you, you're in control of that. Like your ability to give and service to other people, you're in control of that. And then your ability just to absorb and experience everything that you are experiencing, you're in control of that. So for me, those three things are fundamental, you know, in terms of my well-being and my feeling of enjoyment and contentness with the situation. So, you know, like it feels good for me to be able to do a live stream, you know. It feels good for me to smile to someone. It feels good for me to be able to do a race like that, reflect on it, learn from it, and then put it into practice another time in any aspect, you know. They're really satisfying. Do you not think that happiness comes from within and that is projected on things in the material? Well, I mean, if you're always operating from an internal space of like contentness and peacefulness, then, you know, and you know that, then that just becomes your experience, man, and it's reflected on everything. You just see life with different eyes, you know? Like ultimately, if I feel like I'm not good enough, then everything outside of myself becomes not good enough. From my experience, I'm not sure if that's correct, but that's just what I've observed, you know what I mean? If I feel like I'm good enough and all these things, and I operate from a level of love and peacefulness, then that's reflected in what I see in the world. But if I don't feel like I'm good enough and I just have inner turmoil, then that's what I see. I look at people and I only see what I know. I only know judgment. I only know uncontentness. I only know this turmoil. That's my spot. That's all what I know. That's all what I'm experiencing. So when I look at people, that's what I see. You know what I mean? That's what I see in them. I see myself in them. I see my lack of contentness in them. I see my judgment in them. And then you just walk around judging everybody, thinking you're a fuckhead, you're not good enough. Ultimately, because you're not good enough, you know? And you can just notice that. If you're catching a vibe and you feel like full of love and peace and whatever, you walk down the street and you can just see the beauty in every single person you walk down the street in. What makes me wonder is what happens when you die, what happens when the lights are out. You know, no one knows, man. People have ideas, but, you know, like I've yet to meet someone who's had the experience of dying and come back and been reincarnated and knows that and tells me that, and it's 100% an experience they've had and they know, and it's a fact. Like, so it's largely irrelevant, man. You shouldn't even be, at least I'm talking about for myself. I'm just using your example to talk about it. I mean, your question to talk about it. But I think it's just largely irrelevant. You know, it's something that you have to, I think for me at least, it's something that I have to know. Like, I have to know that, not I have to know, but I mean, it's something that I'm aware of. And it's something you should be aware of. I mean, death's something you shouldn't really, isn't something that you shouldn't be aware of. Like, I mean, if out of everything that you experience in your time here, the whole bit in between your birth and death can be largely unknown, but the only thing you do know is that as soon as you're born, that you're walking towards your death. They're like the only givens as a human being. And that suffering is something you have to work out the whole life, that life is temporary. You know, a large part of your time here is dealing with that you're not going to be here forever. Even if you haven't worked out that's the reason for your suffering, a large part of the time it is the temporary nature of reality. But that's a given. That's a fact. Everything else in between those points is unwritten. You have the ability to write them. But those two things, birth and death, are a fact. After them, we're not sure. You know, so I don't think you should be sitting there getting too stumped on what happens after, man. You should just be getting stumped on what you do in between. And live like that, you know what I mean? It's not like I sit there through my time thinking about, like, what if heaven's real, what if hell's real, what if reincarnation's real. I don't craft my daily existence based on those factors, like I want to be a good dude because I want to go to heaven. You just be a good dude for the sake of being a good dude in between those 2 points, you know? Yeah, I've been catching up with Rupert's post. I mean, Andy, I love Rupert. You know, I was so happy when I saw him finished. And obviously Bernardo too. It's an amazing achievement for everybody, and I feel great for everybody when they finish. But you know, I love Rupert so much. So to see Rupert finish, especially when he didn't finish last year through the tragedy and he didn't end up finishing the course, you know, I know that would have meant so much to him. And obviously he looked like it meant a lot to him when I watched the video. But it was just so great to see him finish. You know. You know, he could have taken 5 more months to finish and it still would have been the most amazing achievement to see him finish. So I'm real happy for him. Yeah, I do keep a journal. I do keep down. Like, I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at writing a journal. I have no ambitions to be an author or something, but I just like, it's cool. I've just noticed, like, it's just dope to see what you were thinking 2 years ago, just in a note on your phone. Most of us have a phone, so it's cool just to write it down, man. It's cool to see. You know, sometimes I've written shit like 2 years ago and I look at it and I think, how the fuck did I come up with this? Not in an arrogant way, but I'm humbled by the fact that, like, you have this amazing ability to work it out. You know, you always have this amazing ability to work out the answers. So to see that in notes from like 2 years ago is just so humbling, you know? And it's just a test that, you know, 90% of the answers you already know the questions to these answers that you have. I mean, sometimes it takes a long time to work them out, but you do know the answers deep down, so it's cool, man. Have I ever eaten meat accident by being vegan? I wouldn't say on accident. I mean, I fucked up on veganism before, 100%. I mean, there was maybe a few times when I was consciously trying to make sure I wasn't eating meat, that there might have been something in the food, but, you know, I'm not too fussed, man. Jemmy, pleasure to see you, brother. Are you going to continue to vlog? Really appreciate the hard work you put into them. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to vlog. You know, like, I don't really have a passion for vlogging. I have a passion for creating content, and, you know, but only if something special was going on, man. Like I wouldn't just try and like film my daily life if I wasn't trying to get a message across, you know. So, but who knows? I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. You know, like I can't even answer it. Do I ever think I'll make another documentary? Yeah. You know, I love documentary filmmaking. I would love to. I would definitely love to do it again. 100%. Like, it's just a mad experience, you know. Like, it's just a mad experience. Like, but you know, finding a story that you want to, or a story or an event that you want to film. I mean, that's the challenging bit. But I just love that commitment aspects of it. I just love the rawness of documentary filmmaking. I just love the unplanned. I love the commitment. I love the dedication. That, you know, the aspects of it. And so, you know, I would love to do it again. You know, that's a great question about, I'm going to read that question. That's a great question. Hey man, just join the chat. I noticed a lot of rides relying on simple carbs, lollies, soft drinks. Can you comment on using fat as more efficient fuel and what's, you know, I don't really, when I was out there, man, I wasn't really thinking about what's the most efficient fuel, what's not the most efficient fuel. Sorry, eh? But, what I was conscious of is just overall calorie intake. And, you know, obviously fat has the highest calories per gram, you know, 9 calories per gram of fat. Carbohydrates and protein, 4 grams of calories per fat. 4 grams of calories per gram, I should say. So, you know, to get a large percentage of to get a large number of calories in without upsetting my stomach, you know, fat is a really viable source of fuel. You know, trying to get 15, 20,000 calories in carbohydrates, I mean, we've already talked about it. I mean, 5,000 grams of carbohydrates is extremely unfeasible on the road. So it was just a combination for me of just getting a high amount of fat, high amount of really a high amount of everything if you can. But obviously the carbs have their place, man. You know, you need enough glucose, you need enough glycogen to be able to perform. But also you need enough overall energy in terms of just overall caloric intake. I would just eat anything and everything, man, in terms of carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. I eat as much as I could of all three. Now, protein, I mean, I'd rather eat more fat and carbs than protein. But, I mean, protein has its place, man. It has its place. Obviously not as important as a place as carbohydrates and fat, in my view, in terms of an event like that. But it also has its place. You know, Andy, I don't know what perpetuum is. It sounds like some sort of high carbohydrate drink, and I would definitely drink it if that's what it is. Did you beat the winning Indy Pack time from last year? You know, it's a hard question for me to answer because last year was so many things happened last year. So many things happened last year, and it's a different scenario, so you can't really compare. You can't really compare. You know, when dudes are racing, they do what they need to do to win. I mean, for some people, that's all it is. For some, in a race situation and you're trying to win, you do what you do you need to win. For me, in the situation that I was in on the race, for me it was more of a personal time trial by the end of it. You know, I didn't have anyone behind me that was going to overtake me. I didn't even have to think about that. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way. It was actually kind of a blessing because I could just keep to myself more. But it was a personal time trial more than anything. So that's obviously, you can't really compare, man. You can't really compare. But, you know, the day I stopped, I can't even answer it, bro. It took me 14 days. It took me 14 days. Last year, tragically, when Michael passed away, and they ended up stopping Christoph. I think they stopped Christoph in Wollongong. That was on the 14th day. You know? So, I mean, it is what it is. Manu, you know, great question. Which IPR 2017 inspired you to do the 2018 edition? Well, you know, I was just, I was having a great, you know, I was observing Mike and Christoph the most, and they inspired me the most, you know, because up until that point, I had never seen a performance like that. Like, you know, I had ideas of what a 24-hour ride felt like and what 200Ks felt like, but to see, you know, when I was watching Mike and Christoph, it was just like seeing fucking the test of human spirit at its finest, you know what I mean? That's what I was watching. So that really inspired me because I was thinking, man, dude, I've got to try this, you know, and seeing these two dudes go for it and really push this physical limit to a place that I never thought you could really go was so captivating that I was like, I need to try this. Regardless of, obviously, I knew it was going to be, you know, treacherous on the body and difficult, but I was like, I got to try it. So, you know, I learned a lot just by watching them, man, just by hearing them talk, just by watching their composure, by watching them, you know. The least I learned from them was watching them cycle. I mean, it's not that exciting to watch somebody cycle. But I learned a lot from just the way they talked about how they cycled, the way they talked about just life in general, the way they ate, their composure, the way they talked to people, the time they had for people. You know, I learned a lot from watching that up and close the most, which really affected my bike riding, man, too, you know, like, that really helped me. It is no doubt that you're a gifted athlete who works super hard. Do you think saying someone is gifted devalues their work they put into everything? Not really, because I think, you know, first of all, I'm going to say thank you for saying that I'm a gifted athlete. You know, do I view myself as a gifted athlete? Not really, but I appreciate the compliment. If I was going to think about it, I think everyone at the top level, I'm not talking about myself, I'm just talking about any sort of sport. I think anyone who's having a top level of performance at that sport, you know, all of those dudes are gifted, obviously, you know. But then, you know, the rest is just hard work, man. You know, you can just be gifted and never maximize your potential because you don't work hard enough, you know. So I think at the top of anything, it's about being gifted. And then, but it's equal amounts gift and it's equal amounts hard work, you know. Like, I'm probably physically not gifted enough to run 100 meters in 9 seconds. You know, or 10 seconds, or even 11 seconds, or 12 seconds, or even 13 seconds. You know, so to be hitting those numbers, obviously you have to have a genetic gift, or be predisposed to doing that sport. But then the rest is just hard work, you know. That makes a difference. But that's just the facts, man. There obviously is genetic advantages. Everyone has a genetic advantage or a genetic predisposition to a sport, or some form of, you know, power, strength, endurance. So yeah, I don't think it devalues the hard work. I mean, just partaking in sport, you realize that even you could be the most talented person, but with no hard work, nothing really happens, man. If you sit on the couch, you're still on the couch. You know, you might be able to run pretty quick, but you're not going to run as quick as you would if you trained. I think hard work makes you obviously more gifted than you are, but I mean, like, there's no amount of hard work that's going to be able to make me run as fast as Usain Bolt. You know? That's just facts. But obviously hard work is transformational. It transforms your life. I mean, you can get reasonably good at anything you really want to do with hard work, or better than you were before. That's it. Do you keep in touch with Christoph? How's he doing? Is he doing the Indy Pack again? You know, I've messaged Christoph. He's messaged me. I mean, it's not like we chat on the phone, man. But you know, I'm a fan of Christoph, And I would love to see what he's doing next, man. He's truly like elite. You know, I consider him the best in the world at this sport. You know, if someone was going to ask me like who's the best, I'd say him. You know, so he's an amazing athlete, man. It's kind of hard to really fathom unless you unless you're kind of like done a bit of riding or you've just seen it happen firsthand. It's just unbelievable. Do you think Jess has helped you looking back at when you met? Yeah, of course, man. I mean, I think in the relationship, man, you know, it's a learning, you know, we both show each other different things. We both teach each other different things, man. We both have faults we both work on. And, you know, she helps me, man. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what she's helped me with. But she's helped me, you know, she's helped me with so much. It's not just one thing, you know. I've definitely become more patient. You know, Jess is so caring and giving. She's so caring and giving, it really makes you question your amount that you're giving and caring. So she makes me more of a caring, giving person, and she makes me want to give more and care more and stuff like that, bro. Christoph versus Jesse Carlson. I mean, it's a great question. I mean, who knows, you know? They're both, you know, elite, top of the class in the world at what they do in that sport, you know, so it's hard. Like I said, I still think Christoph is the best in the world, man. But anything can happen, man. You know, you can put them both in a race and Christoph could tear a hamstring and his frame could snap. So it's really situation in a specific race scenario. I mean, IndyPac 2019 supported by Curve Organisation. Do you think? Who knows, man? I mean, honestly, I don't really think they need to support it. I don't think they need to support it. Because nothing really changes, man. The only difference is there's no media car. Like, I mean, that was the only difference this year, that there wasn't a media car walking around taking photos of people. I mean, that's the only difference. There was still, having driven the route and seeing the support and then seeing the support this year, I still think there was equal amounts of support, man. I still think there was equal amounts of support. Like, I followed the top two dudes from start to the finish. So I kind of saw how many people came out and hanged out with them. And I don't think it was much different this year, man. Obviously, okay, maybe, you know, there's not going to be news coverage when these dudes are rolling into major towns. But in terms of like the population getting so far behind it and really embracing the ride or the race or whatever you want to call it, I think it was the same, you know, like, I think it was the same and it was amazing to see. So I don't think they need to support it. I mean, it'd be cool if they got back, they did it, but I mean, in terms of it running, I don't think they need to. I think people will still rock up. A lot of people still do respect the rules. Obviously, there's going to be people who don't respect the rules, but that's on them, man. I mean, even last year, there was dudes who didn't respect the rules, and there was supposed rule enforcers. I mean, there was obviously dudes who were holding each other's hands last year, man. Like, I saw dudes, literally, it was just like, dude, you're on a fucking group ride. But there's no problem with that. But it wasn't a solo, unsupported, ride by yourself type race. Even last year, when it was officially organised, it wasn't like that. You know, it wasn't like that, man. So people following the rules, that's on them. Just like it was this year. I mean, this year people were taking detours and shit, which I think is a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. I think taking a detour, you know, I think if you're going to take a detour, I think just don't even do the route. I think don't even do the route. I mean, what's the point of being on the tracker page if you're going to take a detour? That's just my personal opinion. It's not hate to anyone who took a detour, it's just my personal opinion. But again, the rules are on you. I mean, for the people who are by themselves out there, I mean, you're in control of everything, really. So I don't think they really need to get behind it. It'd be cool if they did, but I think it'd still operate the same and people would still push the pace and everyone would come out and support. And that was evident this year, so I'm assuming it'll be evident next year. The fact that you guys did it despite Kerr pulling out was a true unsupported move. You know, shouts to you, brother. I mean, I think, I mean, that's just, I think for a lot of us, it didn't really matter because it doesn't really change anything. I mean, we're still doing personal time trials across the country. You know, we don't need an organisation to allow us to do that. We know the route. We have the tracker. It doesn't really change anything. You know, if you're doing it for hype, if you're doing it to be a champion, if you're doing it to be a winner, if you're doing it to get a photo from the media car and get blasted on Instagram, then it'll become a problem for you and you probably won't do it. But for us who are doing it for personal reasons, we just want the challenge. You know, we don't need an organisation to allow us to do a challenge, you know. And the organisation knows that, man. So I don't think they were that worried about us that we wouldn't go out and do it. I think they knew that when they had to pull the pin on it, that everyone who was serious about doing the bike ride before is still going to be serious about doing it. What about accepting help on the way? Stefan seemed to embrace it and thought that it changed him and maybe he would do it in the future. I mean, that could have been a cool aspect of the race that maybe that changed for some people now that it wasn't an official race. But I mean, last year people were accepting food off people. You know, I saw it with my own eyes. No one said shit, you know. Andy, you know what I mean? Like, no, I saw people last year accepting food, accepting water, accepting Coke, and no one said anything. Now, I'm not sure if that's against ultra endurance rules or not. I mean, Stefan probably knows more than I do, you know, so he probably is a better answer on whether or not that's allowed or not allowed in standard race practice, you know. But I know people coming out to the middle of nowhere to give you a bottle of Coke, man. I mean, that's hard to deny. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I had dudes pass me a can of Coke. Like, I had a dude pass me a can of Coke in the middle of nowhere. And I was just like, dude, I'm not going to tell you not to give me this Coke right now. I don't care about anything else. Like, so much respect and it's such a caring move to bring you this little can of Coke into the middle of nowhere at some bizarre, at like 2 a.m. in the morning. It's like, shit, dude. You know what I mean? It means so much. I mean, even if I didn't drink it, I'd probably still accept it and then I'd throw it away, but I wouldn't tell him. I mean, it's a big deal. I'm not going to turn that down. And I don't think Stefan would have turned it down either because it's just such a nice gesture. Thank you, Vegan Cyborg. I appreciate it. Hey, AZ, your wheels failed by the time... your wheels failed by the time you hit Adelaide. Too many miles in them. Any theories? You know, I had done a lot of miles in those wheels. I had probably already done like 8,000, 7,000 or 8,000. I've probably done 7,000 kilometers in those wheels. And I don't think those wheels are built for someone who's a bit heavier. You know, so I had put a lot of stress into those wheels. I didn't get those wheels looked at. I didn't get that bike, you know, I didn't get those wheels serviced or anything. Like, so I'm sure they were kind of destroyed before I even started the race. You know, I was pretty lucky that they even lasted, dude, which was amazing. But I think if you're a bit heavier and you're doing that many kilometers, you probably need to get a custom wheel built or, you know, I don't know, man. Like, you need a custom wheel built, make, you know, kind of get wheels that are going to fucking be able to hold your body weight. Not saying that I'm extremely heavy, but I mean, like, I don't think those stock wheels that came with that bike are meant for someone over 90 kilos. And just like, I don't know, man. They took a beating, man. They copped a beating. That's for sure. They copped a big beating. I would definitely invest in some new strong wheels, man. Just because I wouldn't want to worry about my wheels buckling and cracking and snapping. That's something I don't want to worry about. Yeah, I did use the GP4000 tape to my bike. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, it's hard to know how durable those GP4000s are. I mean, the road surface is crazy shit. It's crazy terrible in some places. So I don't think there's many tyres out there that can withstand that amount of brutality. You know, I'm not sure. Like, you could just be unlucky and just go over a terrible patch that any tyre would get a hole in it. But I had to change my back tyre once. I had to change my back tyre once and put the new one on, and I mean, are they still on the bike? No, they're on. I sent the wheels back to my mate Kim. So they were a great tyre though. I mean, I had to change it once after 4,000 kilometers. And I had already done a few hundred kilometers on them before I started the race. So I would use them again. I would use them again for sure. I'd definitely carry another spare. You know, I had a Maxxis one on the front that by the end of the race had like probably 13,000 kilometers in them. 13,000 kilometers in them, dude. I think they're called Maxxis Relics. No, not one flat tire, man, in these Maxxis Relics, dude. 13,000 kilometers, man. That's mind-blowing, dude. They were a thicker tire. I think they were like a 28 or a 25. I'm not sure. But amazing, amazing. I know they're not like a race tire and the rolling resistance isn't as good or whatever, but I mean, that durability is insane. They're going up in the Hall of Fame in my ass, dude. Gonna fucking stick them to the wall. All right, probably got 10 minutes left and then I'm gonna cruise. Were all the riders on road bikes? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, like, I didn't see anyone on a mountain bike. But everyone's got a variety of different setups. I mean, some dudes have big tires, thin tires, like, some dudes look like they got their house on the bike. Like, you know, everyone's got a different setup, man. But I'm not sure. Dark Knight did it in the Batmobile. Come do across Canada. I'd be too scared to be too cold, man, across Canada. You know, I get cold. You know, it's cold here in Melbourne today, man. Like, I don't like the cold weather. I mean, real cold. Like, if it's snowing and shit, I don't like that. Maybe in summer. Maybe in summer. But it's probably still too cold in summer. The cold would probably push you further, man, because it'd be so cold you couldn't sleep. And the problem is when you get cold, like, I notice the problem when I get cold is you just start like, oh, man. Especially when you're tired, it's like you really do feel. I mean, that's one of the rare moments that you're like in touch with your energy levels. You know what I mean? You can really feel your energy levels when they're dipping and going up and going down. And I really felt a significant dip in my energy when it was that cold, just from like trying to stay awake, man. It's almost like when you're tired and you're trying to stay awake, it's like cognitively you're using so much energy just to try and focus, and then you're using all this energy to try and pedal, and then when it's cold, you're also using energy to stay warm. You know, like, so you're like shaking and trying to stay awake and trying to pedal. You just feel like the energy levels are just dipping and dipping and dipping and dipping. I've never heard of Transcendence 3100 mile race running around a half-mile block in New York. How to finish in under 50. That sounds crazy, dude. I've never heard of that. That sounds heinous, dude. 3100 mile race around a half-mile, same half-mile block in under 52 days. I'm not sure about that, eh? I'll never say never, but I don't think, you know, as far as my eyes can see, I don't think I'd ever do that. A half-mile block. Maybe if someone put a gun to my head and you have to do it, I might do it, but I mean, the idea of that craze is so crazy, man. Are you ever going to do Melbourne to Adelaide next year? Would love to do it with you and Joey next time. You know, I will definitely be doing it again just because I think it's a phenomenal training ride riding from here to Adelaide. You know, my mum lives in Adelaide. I live in Melbourne. I love the road. I love the people. I love the food. It was almost like when I rode through on the Indi Pack, like, it was cool because I got to see all the dudes at the roadhouse, and they even know I was stopping at some roadhouses. They know Joey, man. You know, like they're mates with Joey also. So that was cool. I think it's a great training route. It's got a good mixture of flats, hills, desert. It's desolate. It's all sorts of shit. But I don't think Joey will ever come on that bike ride again. You know, I wish he would. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wish he would. You know, Joey's a great dude to ride with because he's just selfless. He doesn't complain. You know, when Joey starts complaining, That's what I love about Joey. You know, I've ridden with other dudes before, and they're not like Joey. Joey complains when shit has hit the fucking fan. Like last time I saw Joey complain on the bike ride, he stopped a kilometer down, like 2 kilometers down the road. Like he was all over the place. Like he could barely see. And it's like, if you're going to stop, that's how you stop. I mean, you stop when you're delirious and literally not capable of turning the pedals. I've been with dudes that complain the whole time. Complain. And then when the finish is in sight, they're doing like 500 watts. They're doing 500 watts at the end, and you're just thinking, bro, you just wasted 5 hours of energy complaining, and then you're gonna do 500 watts to finish. Where come on, man, you know. But at least with Joey, it's like when he's complaining, and you look at him and you go, nah, dude, this dude's in like the vortex now, about to just get spat out the other side in bits, you know. So, you know, I do miss riding with him. But also, you know, I respect what he does, and it's cool to see someone do what they love for a living. You know what I mean? That's his life, is doing what he loves. And, you know, so it doesn't really faze me anymore not being able to ride with him, because I know he's doing what he loves, and that's so important. And I just ride by myself, man, even though it's funner with Joey sometimes. Save the complaining energy for riding. Yeah, I mean, well, complaining doesn't really do anything. You know, it's just wasted energy. Unfortunately. Did I have any most memorable moments? My most memorable moments on the bike. You know, it's so hard to pinpoint, man. I can't, like, these memorable moments come back to you so slowly. It's like a dream that you slowly recollect, you know what I mean? Like, so there was so many memorable moments, man. Every day was memorable, like in some fashion. You know, like, I can't even describe to you how many memorable moments there were, man. Like, you'd have to ask me a specific day, you know, because there's so many memorable moments in a day, like, that just stay with you, that, you know, you can't pinpoint it. Did I take any photos? I didn't take any photos during the ride. Do I regret it? Not really, you know, because I was really just absorbing it. You know, I had my eyes open. So I didn't really take any photos or videos. I was just absorbing it all, which was cool. I still got the memory, you know what I mean? That's the great thing about memory, man. Like, it would suck if you didn't have the memory. It would suck if you didn't have the memory. So I'm glad I got the memory, you know. We're able to remember things like that. Yeah, I enjoyed those little Instagram videos I posted, man. What was it like on past Mike's place? You know, it was weird. It was weird. I mean, no, I just think going past a place where someone's just died is always crazy, because, you know, it's just like where someone left the planet, man. The energy is just like, it's on a different level, man. Like, this dude actually, obviously following him and having that connection and filming him, and just spending so much time editing and filming and talking, and we didn't really talk that much. We talked a little bit, but I felt strongly connected to him. So it was an emotional experience, but it was also very uplifting in a sense, man. You know, I guess in my belief, I have no doubt that Mike's gone to a better place, and he passed away doing what he loved, even though it was extremely tragic. But there was a certain beauty to it, at least for me. Like, this guy in the race of his life, passing away, unfortunately, doing what he loved, and then coming back and then editing that and being connected to that, and then coming back a year later and doing well and going past on the same day. You know, there was it was I can't really put it into words, man. It was definitely an experience itself, you know. So it definitely made me feel a certain type of way. I got this question a lot. Shout out to Vegan Cyborg. Have any shops and companies and sponsorship deals now that you've totally proved that you've got the power for this style of riding? No, I don't think they would. I mean, the race is over, so I think from a company standpoint, it's like, what's the point? I mean, it's not even doing a race. You know what I mean? I mean, you never know. Maybe if I do another race, man, and it was like made public, and maybe that would happen. I mean, the thing is, with any sort of support in terms of alleviating financial pressure on a race like this is appreciated. So I definitely wouldn't be anti it. You know what I mean? If someone was like, "Yo, take these wheels and just like make a post on Instagram," I would definitely do it. You know what I mean? Because it's like I use the wheels, and it alleviates the financial pressure of having to get good wheels. I would definitely be up for it, man. So you never know. We'll see what happens, man. This is my last question before I cruise. Did that interview with that dude kind of bug you? I think you're talking about Bicycle Australia. You seemed like you were hungry and you wanted to go. No, I didn't, man, because, he had messaged me before. And I was the one who told him. He wanted me to message him, answer these questions. And I was like in bed, I was in bed eating naked. And I was like, dude, I don't got time to answer these questions. Like, I'm not going to sit there and type out these questions, So I asked him where he is, because I thought he was in Sydney, and he was like, no, I'm in Clare and Adelaide, and I was going to ride through Clare. So I was like, yo, dude, just meet me at this PP, and we can do the interview. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, obviously I probably stopped at the location for like an hour, which is like ludicrous. I should have just only been there for like 15, 20 minutes, but it was worth it, man. Because you had just spent like the last fucking week, like in your own mind, going over things and enjoying this bike race. So to be able to express a bit of that is a great opportunity. And if I have anyone to thank, I have to thank him. You know what I mean? It's not like you got dudes coming up and asking you to do interviews all the time. So you got to seize that opportunity to talk. And people want to hear it. You know what I mean? It's not oftentimes people want to actually hear what you have to say. And there's a dude to record it and put it on the platform and all this kind of crap. So, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity, man. Obviously, I worked for the opportunity throughout the race to even just be able to have an interview. So I was eager, man. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I want to do this, man. So it was cool, man. Anyway, people, weird shit, man. I had a dream about you last night. You just finished the Indy pack, and I wanted to see you and accidentally spilt fish water on you. And even after 5,000K, you go pissed and bashed me. I mean, I wouldn't do that if you did that to me anyway, but shout-outs to you. I mean, it's fucking mad, speaking of dreams, dude, it's just mad how we can all be in each other's dreams. You know what I mean? Like, like I'm kind of semi-glad that I was like in your dream, even though I did bash you. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but it's just mad. I'm a dream fan. Anyway, people, I got to roll. Shouts to all of you, man. Most of us dreaming about doing something crazy like this race, and you went out and crushed it and did it. A large part of it I did it for you guys, man. I mean, all of you are capable of doing a race like this. And that's the main thing. How quick you do it, I'm not sure. But all of you. I could even get my mum to do this race, dude. It would take her a long time. But we all have an amazing capability to go for a long period of time. I mean, we're built to survive. That's the great thing about the human body, the human mind. It's just like, it's primed for survival. And it'll do what it do. Once you know how to push it and you have the tools to be able to push it, the opportunities are endless. And the possibilities are endless. So I couldn't reiterate to someone enough, man, that regardless about how scared you were about partaking on an adventure like a bike ride like this, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the opportunity that you've been presented with, which is just life in general, to try, so that's it, man. Anyway, I got a cruise. That's part 3. I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the future. But it's been good chatting. And I hope that you found the last 3 parts, the last few Q&As helpful. I know we kind of go off on tangents, but about different things and they're not seemingly all about bike riding, but, it is what it is. That's the kind of shit I felt that helped me and that really improved my cycling. It might be of use to you. Who wants to talk about cadence and power the whole time? It's boring as fuck. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great weekend. If you're in Melbourne, stay safe. I mean, the wind is crazy. It's 120 kilometre hour wind. I'm about to have lunch. Enjoy. Andy, pleasure to see you. Have a great weekend, man. I messaged Rupert, dude. I want to reply because I love Rupert so much. When I speak to Rupert, it makes me happy. Peace.